Hey everybody, it's Amy from Amy Baughman Sew and Quilt, and I'm working on these inexpensive table runners. I'm re-hemming them for someone, and not my favorite thing to do, but I've got my Janome 2000 Air threader serger and everything's going just great. But you can see I'm trimming off this bad edge that's on here, and I'm replacing it with a 3-thread rolled edge. But I want to show you how to turn a corner when you're cutting away a seam allowance. It's the same process if you're not cutting away a seam allowance, except on the corners, we need to get that extra bulk out of there when we're turning a corner, whether it's a rolled hedge or a regular overlock stitch. So let me get to towards the end here. Okay, so here is the corner of my project. What I need to do is go in and pre-trim out. I'm going to say about 1 inch because the blade goes so much more forward on a serger than it does anywhere else. I'm going to trim it about 1 inch away on each corner. Now every corner I do, I have to do this with, except the one I started at. So here we go. Get that out of there. All right, so I'm going to serge to the very end of this corner. And every last thread is going to be caught in my stitch. I'm going to stop on the very, 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 very end. And sometimes I'll even take the hand wheel and I'll turn it to make sure I'm at the end. I'm going to pick up my presser foot lift and I'm just going to push it back just a little bit off the stitch fingers. And I'm going to turn it 45 degrees and I'm going to line it back up. So my needle is going to go in the edge, oops, sorry about that, the edge of my fabric. And it may take a little bit of adjusting. And I also tug back on my looper threads to make sure that I don't have a big loop on the end or a loose spot. So now when I turn the corner, you can see my blade is behind that cutout that I did. So now the blade will pick up right where my cutout is, so it'll grab this extra seam allowance and cut it away, and I'll have a perfect corner. Let's see how much you can see here. So you can see I have a beautifully hemmed corner. This little loop right here, that's because I didn't pull my threads back enough. But that's all you have to do when you're roll hemming is get to your corner, especially if you're trimming off the seam allowance. Trim off your seam allowance. And this doesn't matter whether it's roll hemming or 3-thread, 4-thread, it doesn't matter. And you can pre-cut these too. You don't have to do it while it's on the serger. I'm just going to stitch to the very, very, very end of your fabric, and you have to get your nose in there and see where you're at. You're going to pick up your presser foot. You're going to just kind of gently turn this 45 degrees and then push it back till it's right under the needle and up against your blade, right? We want this part to be up against the blade. Oh, not close enough. Okay, perfect. Pull back on my threads to make sure I don't have any loopies. And there you go, another beautiful corner. So that's all there is to it, just a little pre-trimming, and you can have beautiful corners whether you're roll hemming or whether you're doing a 3-thread or a 4-thread serge. There you go, because the more you know, the more you sew. Okay, I'm coming to the very end of my roll hemming, and you can see my roll hem and then the seam that we're cutting off, the ugly spot. When I started, I left myself a long chain, and that's what that is called a chain. So when I go forward, a lot of times sergers have a tendency to kick out and you get this kind of dog-eared shape. What I like to do is put a little tension in the front with my left hand, and as I'm going through, I take my tail and I just kind of a little bit of tension and pull it off to the right so it goes into the serger nice and square. And I leave myself a long tail for the next one. Now, because I have that fuzzy nylon fluffy thread in here, when I snip it, it's not going to come undone. It really knots itself well. So that's some easy tips for roll hemming when you're cutting away a seam allowance.